Okay, we want to pick up where we left off yesterday. So I've already connected to the server. I'm gonna open up my folder, and there's my ODM, my folder. There's my art folder. I'm gonna go ahead and open up my art folder, and I want to find that artist practice 7th hour that I had saved yesterday. So I'm gonna go ahead and open that. And remember, we finished the project. We finished yesterday by putting a starry night on top of everything. So I've expanded that picture of Starry Night, and it's covering everything that I've done. And now we're going to work a little bit with just the moon. We're going to learn a new tool. It's going to be this tracing tool at the bottom. But before we do, I want to isolate the moon because that's what I'm going to trace. So I want to make just this section of my screen larger. So down at the bottom, down here where it says 100%, I'm going to go to 300%. Then I'm going to go ahead and slide over to the right, and notice that I can see my moon very well right now, and I want to work with just this portion of the starry night. And we're going to trace the moon. Up until this point we've used the circle shape, I think we used the triangle, the diamond, and the star in a previous exercise or one other time when you came into the computer lab. Well, today we're going to talk about the tracing tool. So I'm going to go ahead and select the tracing tool. I'm going to go ahead and close this window, and then you're simply going to just trace around the moon. And because this is a round shape, we're going to have to use little strokes. It's not a square where I can just do 4 straight lines. So you can click anywhere on the shape. So I'm going to just start here on the outside edge, and then I'm just going to move my mouse a little ways and click, move my mouse a little ways and click, and I'm just going to trace around the moon. And if I get in a big hurry and make a mistake, I can either do the Command Z or Edit, Undo, and I can undo, clear back to a point that I know I like, and then continue. The idea is to trace completely around the shape and stop on the first point that I made, that very first point. Clear back right there. I want to stop on that point. When you're drawing something that's round, the closer your points are, the smoother it's going to be. And now, when I get to my starting point, a little white circle is going to pop out beside my ink pen, and that's how I know I'm actually to my starting point, which is where I also want to end. So I'm going to click one more time, and it becomes a solid shape. Notice I can move it. It's a shape that I'm going to now fill with. I'm going to experiment. I want to look at my starry night with this shape filled with lots of different choices. So now I want to go back to the view of 100%, and at this point I want to open up my inspector, and I'm going to go to the graphics tool if it's not open, and I want to talk about filling that shape with different things. I'm going to look at the color fill, and I kind of like the white, but I don't know, I want to look at some of the others, so I think I'll go ahead and go to the gradient fill and see about perhaps maybe a white and a shade of blue. No, maybe. Not sure. I'm going to go to the advanced gradient, and again, these are just things that you can experiment. It's going to be up to you. You might want a totally different color in there besides the yellows. I mean, you might want to do something entirely different, but I'm pretty sure I want shades of yellow, and I want 4 shades of yellow, and there are not 4 shades of yellow in my coloring box. So at this point I'm going to go to my color wheel, because then I can go ahead and start picking just shades of yellow that are going to be pretty close, so it might even be hard to tell. But I know I have 4 different colors, and then maybe how it lays might be a little bit different. Okay. Again, it's a personal preference, and at this point I might want to look at that and see if I want that black line on there, which I really don't think I do. So I'm going to go and choose none. And I think I like that better. But I might actually want a line, but maybe a shade of yellow on it. And I think I like that. Now again, if I wanted, I could go to image fill and maybe put one of my pictures from my folder, the moon or something, but I don't. I like the color, so I'm going to leave my moon yellow. But if you want to use the image fill and go to your art folder, remember we can start by going to ODM to make sure your folder, your art folder, I could fill it with that moon that I found on the internet if I wanted to, but I don't, so I'm not going to. But if I chose open, it would fill, and I'll go ahead and put it in there. I don't happen to like that, so I can go to edit, undo. I like the yellow, so I'm going to leave it at that. But this is up to you. You can choose to fill it with a color, a gradient, an advanced gradient, an image fill, or if you want to use the mask technique that we'd already done once earlier in the previous lesson, you can do that. But I'm going to leave it like it is. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to get back my words Van Gogh, and I want to get back the circles that I've done earlier that, remember, they're behind the canvas back here. I'm going to undo what I just did so it gets right where I want it. I want to move this, then, the Starry Night behind all those other things. So I'm going to click on the Starry Night. I can see my handles, so I know it's selected. I'm going to go to Arrange on my menu bar, down to Send to Back. Now I see all the things that I've done. I only want the circle with a solid color to be visible. I'm only going to use that one. So I want you to find that one, and then I want you to delete the rest of them. You're simply going to click on them and then hit your delete key on your keyboard. So go ahead and get rid of those other circles that we practiced with so that you have only the solid color. And at this point, I want you to use the mask tool and put Vincent van Gogh in that circle. Now you could use the image fill, but remember that limits your choices, and then I could go to choose and find my Vincent van Gogh, and I could do it that way, and if I hit open, but it doesn't fill my circle very well. So I'm going to not do it that way. I'm going to go ahead and close my inspector. I'm going to go back out to my art folder, and there's Vincent van Gogh, and I want to drop him on top of that blue circle. So I'm going to click on the picture, and I'm going to drop it on top of my circle. And now it has loaded. I'm going to go ahead and close this window. It's a little hard to tell because we're so zoomed in on his beard, but if I double click, you can kind of see a faint image of him behind my screen, but if I scale way down, clear down to the very end, you can see him start to come into view. But I had to really scale it down. And there I got him in my circle, and I like it. So I'm going to go ahead and click away, and I like the fact that the color scheme kind of blends in with the Starry Night. I might add a line around the outside. Remember, I can do that by using the inspector tool, going to the stroke and picking a line, maybe adding a little bit of a different color. I'm going to go back to my color crayons and just doing a really dark color that goes along with the color scheme. And that's going to be up to you, again, how you fill your moon, if you want a line or not around Vincent van Gogh, those are up to you. The last thing I want to do is move Vincent van Gogh's name somewhere closer to the picture so that people that don't know this artwork will know that they're looking at Vincent van Gogh. And if you want to change the size of it at this point, if you think it's too big, you can do that, so it's not so overpowering. And I also believe that I would like to change the color because I think the black is awfully hard to read on that black background. So I'm going to go to the T tool in my inspector, and that's right up here if it's not open, my T tool under color and alignment, and I believe I'm going to choose a really light yellow. I think that's going to show up quite well on that background. Now, at this time we're really close to the end of the lesson. The one thing I want to show you is the lock and the unlock feature. If you get things in place and you don't want to accidentally bump them, for example, because this is a shape that could be bumped or moved and slightly off, I'm going to go ahead and go to edit, undo that move so it gets right back where it was. I want to lock that in position. I might want to lock the Starry Night so that this doesn't get bumped. So I'm going to do those two things. I'm going to click on my Starry Night. I have the handles. Kind of hard to see, but they're there. So I'm going to go to Arrange and Lock. And now I cannot grab a hold of it and move it. And I want to do the same thing with my moon. I'm going to go to Arrange and Lock. These other two things, I don't really care where they, if they got bumped, they're easy for me to move. They didn't have to line up with a particular shape. I may want to put it again where I like it. Again, it's a personal choice. That concludes this lesson. We want to go to File, Save a Version, and then we're going to go ahead and quit Pages. Get this screen, you're going to go ahead and hit OK, and you will disconnect from the server by dragging your server folder down to the trash.